After the Han Dynasty collapsed, Chinese history then entered the Three Kingdoms period, followed by the Jin Dynasty and the Northern and Southern Dynasties, a 400-year-long era of division. The man who ended this chaos was Emperor Wen of Sui, who founded the Sui Dynasty in 581 CE. Like the Qin before it, the Sui Dynasty lasted only 2 generations, for a total of 38 years. Yet, with just 2 revolutionary institutional upgrades, it reunified the nation, and these 2 systems influenced history for more than 1,300 years afterward. What were these 2 revolutionary systems? 1. Establishment of the Imperial Examination system. This completely broke the aristocratic family's hereditary monopoly on power. Whether one was born into poverty or nobility, as long as one passed the examination, one could become an official, eliminating the reliance on recommendations or family background. This not only opened a fair path for advancement for the common people, but also allowed imperial power to regain full control over official selection, providing the ultimate weapon against powerful clans. It was like establishing fair, open, and standardized rules for selecting system administrators, completely dismantling the aristocratic monopoly on key positions and returning the power of talent selection to the central government. 2. Establishment of the Three Departments and Six Ministries system. Previously, the authority of the Grand Chancellor was too great, easily overshadowing the emperor. The new system divided this power into 3 separate stages: decision-making, review, and implementation, managed respectively by the Secretariat, the Chancellery, and the Department of State Affairs. The heads of these 3 departments all served as chancellors. Their powers were divided equally, and they checked and balanced one another, preventing any single person from holding absolute control. Under the Department of State Affairs were the 6 ministries: personnel, revenue, rights, war, justice, and public works, each responsible for a specific area of governance, greatly improving administrative professionalism. This mechanism fundamentally resolved the millennia-old problem of powerful ministers dominating the emperor. It was equivalent to restructuring the operational workflow of a system. Instead of a single decision-maker, there was now a complete process of drafting, reviewing, and executing, with all parties coordinating and checking one another. Beyond these 2 core systems, the Sui made another significant contribution: the construction of the Grand Canal, connecting the north and south. This project created a national grain transport network, completely breaking down economic and cultural barriers between the 2 regions. It enabled these 2 areas, separated for 400 years, to truly merge into an inseparable whole, strengthening the foundation of unification. It was like building a 2-way highway connecting the north and south of the system, resolving long-standing economic and cultural bottlenecks, and allowing the entire system's efficiency to make a qualitative leap. However, many people hold a misconception. They believe the Sui fell because Emperor Yang of Sui was lewd and immoral. The reality is quite different. The fall of the Sui had almost identical causes to that of the Qin. First, although the Imperial Examination system did not immediately strip powerful clans of their existing privileges, it legally declared that hereditary officialdom was illegitimate. This was essentially uprooting the political foundation of great families. Consequently, the system faced collective hostility from the powerful clans in the eastern regions and the aristocratic groups in the Guanlong area, planting the seeds of rebellion. Second, while the Grand Canal was a project that would benefit future generations, Emperor Yang was overly impatient and proceeded at a breakneck pace. Within just 6 years, he launched multiple massive projects simultaneously: building the Grand Canal, constructing the new capital at Luoyang, repairing the Great Wall, and so on. In total, he conscripted millions of laborers, far exceeding the population's capacity for production and daily life. The canal, meant to be the economic lifeline of the nation, became a crushing burden on the people. With no way to survive, the people rose in rebellion. Third, 3 failed campaigns against Goguryeo depleted the empire's remaining strength. Peasant uprisings spread across the country, while the aristocratic core that had founded the Sui dynasty turned against it. The rebellion of Yang Xuanan, the Jiangdu Mutiny, and Li Yuan's uprising in Taiyuan all dismantled the Sui's governing structure step by step. Finally, the Sui dynasty quickly passed into history, but the institutional framework it left behind was fully inherited by the Tang Dynasty, which, after further refinement, created the greatest golden age in ancient Chinese history. How did the Tang Dynasty optimize this system to create such a glorious era? In 618 CE, Li Yuan founded the Tang Dynasty. It lasted for 289 years and was ruled by 21 emperors. With a century-long period of prosperity spanning from the reign of Zhenguan to the Kaiyuan era, it became the most powerful empire in the world at that time. Within the central governance structure, the Tang made two core improvements: refinement of the Imperial Examination system. The early form of the examination under the Sui was quite rudimentary. In 38 years, only about 100 people passed, failing to resolve the conflict of interests between aristocrats and commoners. The Tang established a comprehensive system with two main types of examinations, regular and special. It also pioneered the palace examination and rules for anonymizing test papers to ensure maximum fairness and prevent cheating. Over 289 years, more than 7,000 candidates passed just the Jinshi degree alone. Crucially, a rule was established: no one may hold a high-ranking position unless they are an examination graduate, firmly linking the path to high office with the examination system. This approach not only broke the hereditary rules of the Wei and Jin periods, but also successfully integrated powerful clans into the examination system, avoiding the resistance faced by the Sui, and completely returned the power of official selection to the imperial court. Improvement of the Three Departments and Six Ministries system. Under the Sui, this system still had a serious flaw. Divided powers led to shifting responsibilities and inefficiency, while centralized power risked autocracy. A balance had not yet been found. The Tang pioneered the practice of holding policy discussions in the Hall of Government, transforming the divided power of the chancellors into a group decision-making process. This preserved the mechanism of checks and balances while ensuring coordinated and effective decision-making, forming a complete and rigorous governance system. This structure ensured that imperial power was not absolute and that the system operated smoothly. Even if the emperor did not attend court for long periods, the state machinery continued to function normally. This was like establishing a unified coordination center for the system. It maintained the principles of separation of powers and mutual supervision, while solving the problem of inefficiency caused by fragmentation, allowing the central system to achieve a perfect balance between control and operational effectiveness. Beyond improving central governance, the Tang built two core foundations in economy and military affairs. Perfecting the equal field system, the state issued detailed regulations on land distribution and strictly controlled land annexation, enforcing the principle that every farmer must have land to cultivate. This was accompanied by the Zuyongdiao tax system, significantly reducing the burden on the people. At the same time, the state retrieved millions of people previously concealed by powerful clans, bringing them under household registration management and greatly expanding the central government's tax base. When people owned land and had a means of livelihood, they were willing to obey the court. This was the most solid foundation for the prosperity of the Tang Dynasty. Closely linking the Fubing military system with the equal field system, creating a military structure that combined agriculture and national defense. Soldiers were essentially civilians. Fubing soldiers were selected from farmers who received land grants from the state. In peacetime, they returned home to farm. In war, they mobilized and provided their own weapons and rations, allowing the state to maintain an army at low cost. Furthermore, the power to deploy troops and appoint generals was held by the Ministry of War at the center. Commanders could not hold military power for long periods, fundamentally eliminating the risk of warlord separatism. Importantly, when going to war, these soldiers fought to protect their own land and families, resulting in extremely high morale. This was the military foundation that allowed the Tang to destroy the Eastern Turks, pacify the Western regions, defeat Go-Dugrio, and establish the great system of the Khan of Heaven. Coupled with an inclusive culture and an open foreign policy, the Tang Dynasty became not only a powerful, unified empire, but also a globally influential superpower. Why, then, did this immensely prosperous Tang Dynasty decline and eventually perish? There was one core reason. The entire institutional framework established in the early Tang began to collapse from within. All vulnerabilities stemmed from the very mechanisms of the system itself. The first collapse point was the unsustainability of the equal field system. The core requirement of this system was that the state must have sufficient land to distribute. However, by the Kaiyuan era, the population had surged, and state-owned land was no longer enough to meet demand. Combined with rampant land annexation, masses of farmers lost their land and became vagrants, causing the complete collapse of the system's fundamental pillar. Consequently, the Fu Bing system and the Zuyong Dao tax system also disintegrated completely. The court was forced to switch to a mercenary system, recruiting professional soldiers. However, this policy became the Tang's most fatal vulnerability. Regional governors, jiedushi, in border regions, were authorized to recruit their own troops and manage their own finances, while holding both civil and military authority. Soldiers swore loyalty only to their governors, not to the emperor, sowing the seeds of regional division. The second collapse point was the An Lushan Rebellion. This 8-year-long rebellion completely severed the Tang's golden age and exhausted the empire's resources, spreading separatism from the borders to the whole country. After the Jingyan Mutiny, the eunuch faction gained total control over the Shent's army, the central government's main military force, holding enough power to arbitrarily depose or even assassinate emperors. Following the Ganlu incident, the scholar official class was almost entirely purged, and the Three Departments and Six Ministries system became merely a formality. The central court was paralyzed, decrees went unenforced, and loyalty dissolved. Finally, the widespread Huangchao Rebellion destroyed the economic base in the Jiangnan region, the Tang's financial hub, and annihilated the last remaining elite troops. After the rebellion was suppressed, warlords fought for territory, and imperial authority became a mere puppet. The prosperity of the Tang Dynasty ultimately could not escape the law of internal collapse inherent in its own system, and came to an end. In 907 CE, Zhu Wen deposed Emperor Ai of Tang and established the later Liang Dynasty. Chinese history entered the 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms period, over half a century of division. It was an era ruled by generals, where usurpation of the throne became commonplace and the nation was in chaos while the people suffered. After more than 50 years of fragmentation and constant warfare, Chinese history was once again poised for reunification. A new dynasty would rise from the chaos, inheriting the institutional foundations of the Sui and Tang while creating a completely different governance model, one that emphasized civilian rule, economic prosperity, and cultural brilliance. That dynasty was the Song Dynasty. In the next part, we will analyze how the Song Dynasty rebuilt the empire, the major institutional reforms it implemented, and why this era, despite lacking the military glory of the Tang, became one of the most economically and culturally advanced periods in Chinese history.